So Jackie is a film by Pablo Larrain, who we saw a film of last year.
Yes, he made
Club.
The Club. Rafa Benitez in The Club.
The Club.
I really like that film.
Yeah, it was an odd one.
Very dark.
It was a very odd one.
And very dark, and when we reviewed it on the show, I was like, oh, it's surprisingly funny.
I remember we were doing a review and we were reviewing it in the terms of it was like comedy.
Yes.
And we had to
Yeah,
clarify.
it's really not.
We had to clarify. Actually, wait.
I think the week after we kind of realised what we'd said, and we were like, oh no, actually, that's only
not.
a very small part of the film. It's actually pretty bleak.
Yeah,
sorry.
it's a bleak film.
But now he's made Jackie. Yeah.
He has to, and Jackie is referring to Jackie Kennedy, who was of course JFK's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And this film chronicles the week after he was tragically shot on the 22nd of November 1963, and all of the
Very
tragedies of setting up his funeral and telling her children about his death and everything grief related around that. So it's generally just a horrible situation for anyone to be in.
Yes.
And we've got a clip, and in this clip, it's when the whole film is revolving around a conversation she's having with a reporter who wants to tell the story of how she of Jackie Kennedy, and she decides that she wants to sort of set the record straight about a few things.
Was your faith helping you?
I'd prefer to discuss my faith with a priest. You're not a man of the cloth, are you?
No. No, I'm not. Just trying to get to the truth. That's what reporters do.
The truth. Well, I've grown accustomed to a great divide between what people believe and what I know to be real.
Fine. I will settle for a story that's believable.
That's more like it. You know, I used to be a reporter myself once. I know what you're looking for.
I'm sorry?
A moment-by-moment account. That's what you came here for, isn't it? You want me to describe the sound the bullet made when it collided with my husband's skull?
Natalie Portman's voice.
Yeah.
It's very chilling, isn't it?
I couldn't tell you if that's a real accent, the accent of Jackie Kennedy.
That's the thing. I intended to do loads of research on Jackie Kennedy because we're going to get to the film shortly, but I was intended to do a lot of research, and I haven't done because I've had other stuff on. I'd like to see them side. I've seen them side by side. I'd like to hear them side by side.
Yeah,
all I can say is that accent is very chill, especially when it says Camelot.
Camelot.
There will never be another Camelot.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
really. I don't know what the right word to describe it is.
Me neither.
Yeah,
but it's good.
Yeah, I don't know. Smooth. No, I don't know.
Yeah. So sultry.
Sultry, yeah, sultry.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah, anyway, yeah. So, yeah, that was it.
I mean, the voice is such an important part of the film. I suppose it does need a bit of studying.
Yeah.
And there it was. We'll move on.
Yeah, there you go. Well, what can you do? Yeah, but it's just the fact that this film is. If I had to describe one word to use for this film,
okay,
it would probably be raw.
Raw in what sense?
As in, like it's just because it is about the portrayal of Jackie's grief, isn't it?
It is,
and it does feel like a very, very raw film in terms of that it is dealing with the instant week after, where she doesn't quite know what to be. Knowing what she's doing with herself, and I think Jackie in this film, I don't know how true it is to real life about Jackie Kennedy because I haven't done much research about it.
No,
but it seems like she was a very sort of closeted, consumed character who was sort of like behind.
Well, she as you heard in that clip there, she covers up the truth because and it's important to remember that she was the first lady of television. I think that's the line from the film. Actually, she is the first lady of television. She's the first one who had her entire life laid bare for all the public to see. I mean, it's continued down the line.
I mean, I know she was obsessed with that image and like.
Well, that's the thing. Like when this happens and things kind of go out of control, but she still has to try and keep things in control. I mean, there's the scene where literally. She's on Air Force One, and they're swearing in Lyndon B. Johnson as the successor to Kennedy, and immediately, and I think later in the film there's another bit where she says, "I'm not the first lady anymore." There's little things like that. I mean, the fact that it happened that quick. JFK was killed, and I think about 20 minutes later, Lyndon was being sworn in.
Yeah.
So all those kind of things that were just so traumatic, and you wouldn't wish on anybody, and she has to deal with all of that in the public eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that. Confusion and the fact that some people wear masks. I think that those are quite heavy themes with the film. The fact that it is a very, very sort of confused film in what Jackie is portrayed, because it is such a sudden thing, and all of a sudden within like a day of him dying, or on the same day, she's already planning how she wants his funeral to be.
Well, I think the fact that the film is just a week, and the fact that the frame, we should say that the shape of the screen of the film is 1/66, which is very tight.
Yeah.
And the whole thing feels very claustrophobic. Even the fact that it's in a week feels claustrophobic because so many things happen that you just feel so sorry for her. And you realise this was just a week. This was 1 week.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I felt very claustrophobic. Kermode, I think it was Kermode said this. I mean, other people have said it as well. Natalie Portman is doing a performance of a performance of a performance. Because obviously she's playing Jackie Kennedy, who herself was doing a performance for the public. But even on top of that, another one as well. So it's
a triple.
It's a triple performance. It's remarkable. I think I could watch Natalie Portman play Jackie Kennedy for a good long few days, possibly. I'd like to meet Natalie Portman's Jackie Kennedy. I think she's a really, really great, really good film character. I think she's given good dialogue. I mean, we were just saying before, you saw that Noah Oppenheim, who's written it, did the Divergent series.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
How?
And Maze Runner.
And great.
But I know he did Allegiant, which is the worst one, and Maze Runner.
Yeah.
So not a glowing CV.
But it's a great script. I mean, it's the reason I'm kind of like when you said raw, I went, the emotion side of things, yes, but I think the way it's technically made, it's the least raw you could ever imagine. It's
I was
all
meant sort of like story-wise.
Yeah. It's very, very polished. Every image is evocative. Every single image is something iconic that you can cast back. If you perhaps were alive when this happened, you might sort of see the past when you watch this film. Because everything seems very iconic. I think the fact that Natalie Portman is front and centre of the screen pretty much for the whole thing, even scenes when JFK is around, she's still very much at the centre and it's sort of like half of JFK's face as he kind of is not the focus. The fact that she's there for the whole thing, the fact that she is bang in the middle of every single scene, every single shot, it really gets inside her head. I think it's one of the more intimate, investigative biopics. It's certainly not, you don't see it a lot. You see a lot of biopics that are, I think it's another phrase that's been used a lot, like just sort of cut and paste from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
This doesn't do that at all. I think it assumes that you already know enough about what happened because it's such a well-documented event and just gets straight into the real nitty-gritty, the stuff that you want to know. And for that, I can only give it so much praise. I felt like it just felt more enriching as a film than most biopics. I'd say it's probably one of the best biopics that I've seen. Because when before we saw the film, I mentioned that Mika Levi did the score, who did Under the Skin.
Yeah.
And you said to me, how's that going to work? Because see, Under the Skin, it's that those weird beats, those really strange beats. This score is perhaps even better than that one because it has that sort of presidential American patriotic feel to it, but it also has those off notes. It has those times that it'll just go, "Nyeh," and it'll feel like a horror film. Like a lot of the film does feel like a horror film, which is very strange, and it even evokes the same sort of isolation as Under the Skin. Do you think?
Yeah,
I think it has that same sort of feel of like not knowing your place in the world after something's happened. I think the two line up very nicely side by side. It's very interesting.
I think obviously, that's what all the film is. It's confusion, it's grief, and it's just like I say, it's an extremely raw film. I think the scenes where the film's at absolute most powerful are the scenes where she is sort of like figuring out what everything's going to happen, like when she sort of before she decides to tell her kids, and stuff like that, and like all of that involvement. It's just it is really, really thoughtful in the way they do it. And I think that they have a lot of mystery behind the character of Jackie because with that score, which I thought was quite a mysterious one.
Yeah, very, very
like, sort
much
of like
so.
quite
very
a foreboding one. So almost like painting her as a bit of but almost antagonistic sense.
Mm-hmm. That's another thing. Like Pablo Larrain being a Chilean director, this is his English language debut, and a very good one at that. I'd like to see a lot more from him. It's an objective stance as well. He, I think himself said that he didn't know a great deal about the film. When it was pitched to him, he was like, "Why have you chosen me?" And I think the fact that he's like got the outside perspective really, really helps the film. I think the fact that he doesn't really have a particular stand, I imagine he probably does now from having made the film, from having done the research, but coming at it from a different angle just helps the film so much and makes it just infinitely better than it could have been by anybody. If it was done by somebody, let's say an American Democrat support. I mean, Natalie Portman is a very loud vocal Democrat supporter, but if the director was the same sort of thing, I don't know what his political leanings are, but if he had been that American person that this film probably could have had, then it might be a different film. But I think his outsider perspective is terrific. The attention to detail is fantastic.
It's just a well-made film.
It's all recreated sets as well. It's all it's not the real White House, but it damn looks
It's just
like
little
it.
touches, like where obviously like it's going from a scene, and then it'll cut to like the grainy '60s TV footage of
Yes.
Natalie Portman in that scene, like seamlessly. It's just beautiful.
That's a very important thing in the film. The 1961 documentary that she
Yeah.
made. That was kind of, again, that's such. It seems like such a small thing for us because of people like Michelle Obama, who's always doing stuff on TV and always very active in what she did. And Jackie being the first one, that documentary was such a big landmark. It was like some of the biggest television ratings of all time when she did the tour of the White House. And in that scene, doing that performance, it's very interesting. I think the film says a lot about celebrity. I think it comes along at a very good time when people are more so than ever conscious of what people think of them. And particularly if you're in the public eye. This casts that back to the 60s when this was like a new big deal. I think now with like sort of social media and all that kind of stuff, it's a very, very big deal, especially with celebrities who, post on Instagram. I've noticed with YouTube as well. YouTubers who don't post for a few days and make a video saying, "I'm sorry, guys, I'm sorry." You just have to worry less about what people think of you and make people expect less from you. I think that's a big thing that the film touches on.
Yeah.
And it comes along at a very important time. Literally the day we saw it Friday, the day I saw it Friday, just a few hours later, Donald Trump was sworn in. Which is obviously not great, but it comes along a very interesting time. I think. Yeah. I don't know what else to add to that, but apart from,
Yeah, I think it's just fascinating to see how it goes because it is a really touching portrayal of this woman, and it's like while at the same time really getting into her psyche and sort of getting, because at the end of the day, it still asks questions about her character and sort of some of the things that she does. There's still plenty of content there. I mean, obviously it is cut between the scenes of her with the reporter in the film, and I think there's a lot that had to be said here, and it's all the time it's all these musings on life and your place in the world. John Hurt pops up for an extended part, and he's fantastic in it, and everyone involved just really committed to making this work, and I think especially it's just a celebration of this woman, really. I mean, especially it gives itself an all round of applause near the end of the film, and I think it's probably well deserved. Because it's great. Performance-wise, all across the board, loads of great ones. I mean, obviously Natalie Portman's going to get the credit for being literally in every single frame of the film, pretty much. Peter Sarsgaard's great as well. Billy Crudup as the journalist is terrific. And I think one that's not been mentioned a great deal, but Greta Gerwig. It's a small role, but I didn't expect it to pop up. It's a very important role because she's kind of Jackie Kennedy's advisor. When they're doing the White House tour, she's the one standing at the side, like telling her to smile more. So in some ways, she's quite a destructive influence, but also she is a genuine friend of Jackie. When Jackie has to move out the White House, she says, just call me Jackie. Don't call me Mrs. Kennedy. I'm not the first lady. It's such a badass line, isn't it? Like, call me Jackie. It's class. It's a really good film. I was looking forward to it anyway, but it totally lived up to my expectations. Yeah, definitely. We've got more Pablo Larrain in April. I think my birthday weekend, Neruda, which is another true story. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. And I think everyone should go see this. It's been at the Yes, it's been at the Tyneside this week, and same as Manchester by the Sea, it's opening up across cinemas this week for whatever reason. I don't know why. So you can see the Empire Cinemas in Sunderland, or you can see the Tyneside Cinema in Newcastle. Both are fab. So there you go. Jackie is in cinemas now. Massive recommend. Definitely. Huge recommend. Yeah, I could see the huge recommend. Topical. Very good. Chance to say it, I might. You should see it. It's very good. There's no issue of plot spoilers either as well. Is there?